December 2025 brings a pivotal moment for gun rights in America, as the nation's highest court prepares to weigh in on a case that could reshape the legal landscape for millions of gun owners and those concerned about public safety. The eyes of the country are fixed on Washington, D.C., where the Supreme Court's next move could have far-reaching consequences. The justices have agreed to hear Woolford v. Lopez, a case that directly challenges Hawaii's strict gun permit law. This law has long been one of the most restrictive in the nation, requiring residents to clear significant hurdles before being allowed to carry firearms in public. The court's decision to review this law signals a willingness to revisit and possibly expand its 2022 Bruin ruling, which dramatically reshaped how states regulate public firearm carry. Legal experts say the outcome could clarify or even overturn how states define and enforce gun permit requirements. At the heart of the case are Hawaii's restrictions on carrying guns in public spaces, places like shops, restaurants, and cinemas. The court will consider what states can designate as sensitive places, and whether such restrictions go too far in limiting constitutional rights. Gun rights advocates see this as a crucial opportunity to strike down what they call unconstitutional barriers to self-defense. They argue that overly strict permit laws leave law-abiding citizens vulnerable and undermine the core protections of the Second Amendment. On the other side, gun control supporters fear the court's decision could strip states of vital safety regulations, making it harder to protect communities from gun violence. They warn that a broad ruling could invalidate similar laws in other states, leading to more guns in public spaces. The outcome will not only decide the fate of Hawaii's law but also set a powerful national precedent, guiding lower courts and affecting permit systems across the country. States with similar laws are watching closely, knowing their own regulations could soon be on the line. The stakes are high. This ruling could fundamentally redefine what it means to carry a handgun for self-defense in modern America, impacting not just legal doctrine but the daily lives of ordinary citizens. As Woolford v. Lopez heads to the Supreme Court, it is poised to become a landmark in the ongoing battle over the Second Amendment, with the potential to shape the nation's approach to gun rights and public safety for years to come. Hawaii's 2023 law was crafted in direct response to the Supreme Court's Bruin decision, a landmark ruling that dramatically shifted the legal landscape for gun regulations across the country. Lawmakers in Hawaii recognized that their previous approach to firearm permitting would no longer withstand judicial scrutiny, and so they set out to design a new framework that would comply with the court's guidance while still prioritizing public safety. The Bruin decision struck down the state's previous, highly restrictive permit system, which had made it extremely difficult for most residents to legally carry a handgun in public. This left a legal vacuum and prompted urgent legislative action. The new law makes it a crime to carry a handgun on most private property open to the public, cafes, shops, even doctors' offices, unless the owner posts a sign allowing it. This means that, by default, most places people visit every day are off-limits to firearms, unless business owners explicitly opt in to allow them. It also bans guns outright in a wide range of sensitive places, including parks, beaches, banks, and public gathering venues. These locations are considered especially vulnerable or important to community life, and lawmakers argue that prohibiting firearms there is essential for maintaining a sense of safety and order. Challengers argue this leaves permit holders with almost nowhere to legally carry, making the right to self-defense meaningless. They claim the law is so sweeping that it effectively nullifies the very right the Supreme Court sought to protect, and that ordinary citizens are left confused and frustrated by the patchwork of restrictions. Hawaii defends the law as a necessary public safety measure, consistent with historical traditions of regulating firearms in certain locations. Officials point to a long history of restricting weapons in sensitive areas, arguing that these rules are not new, but rather a continuation of established practices meant to protect the public. The state insists Bruin didn't create an unlimited right to carry guns everywhere. Instead, they argue, the decision allows for reasonable regulations that balance individual rights with the collective need for safety and order in society. The legal fight centers on whether Hawaii's approach is a reasonable regulation or an unconstitutional ban in disguise. Both sides are preparing for a lengthy court battle, with national implications for how states can regulate firearms in the wake of Bruin. Ultimately, the Supreme Court's ruling will clarify how far states can go in limiting public carry after Bruin, setting a precedent that could reshape gun laws across the nation for years to come. The 2020 Sentis Wainan CEO 20 Danen, Ostan, all Redombi Quantu Bruin decision revolutionized gun law by requiring modern regulations to align with the nation's historical firearm traditions. The court rejected balancing public safety against gun rights, instead demanding a clear historical analog for any restriction. This led states like Hawaii to replace subjective may-issue permit systems with shall-issue laws, but many added sweeping location-based bans. Bruin left open questions about what counts as a sensitive place, prompting states to test the limits with new laws. Woolford v. Lopez now asks the Supreme Court to define the boundaries of public carry and clarify what history really allows. The Supreme Court's decision to hear Woolford v. Lopez was heavily influenced by the U.S. Department of Justice, which argued that lower courts misapplied the Bruin standard. The DOJ criticized the Ninth Circuit for relying on post-Civil War laws instead of focusing on the founding era's traditions. 25 states joined the call for Supreme Court review, warning that inconsistent state laws create confusion and undermine gun rights. These states argue that only a clear Supreme Court ruling can resolve the growing divide over public carry regulations. The DOJ and state coalition see Woolford as a chance to enforce a uniform interpretation of the Second Amendment. Without Supreme Court guidance, they warn, Americans' rights will depend on geography, not constitutional principle. Their push was key to elevating Woolford v. Lopez to the national stage. At the heart of Woolford v. Lopez is a clash over how to interpret history. Challengers demand that only regulations with direct roots in the founding era can justify modern gun restrictions. They argue Hawaii's law relies on later, less relevant, and sometimes discriminatory, precedents. Hawaii and its supporters counter that the Bruin test allows for analogies. If a modern law serves a similar purpose as historical ones, it should stand. They point to a tradition of regulating guns in populated areas and public gatherings as justification. The debate is whether the Second Amendment is frozen in the 18th century or can adapt to modern realities. Both sides claim history is on their side, but the Supreme Court must decide which vision prevails. The outcome will shape how courts nationwide interpret the right to carry. As the Supreme Court weighs Hawaii's law, Congress debates the Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act, which would require all states to honor each other's concealed carry permits. This would let residents from permitless carry states bring guns into states with stricter rules, overriding local standards. Supporters say it's about fairness and a uniform right to self-defense. Opponents, including major police groups, warn it would undermine state authority and create chaos for law enforcement. Officers would face confusion over which out-of-state permits are valid, raising safety concerns. The bill could nullify stricter state standards, letting people carry concealed guns nationwide with little oversight. The fight over reciprocity mirrors the Supreme Court case. Both ask whether gun rights should be nationally standardized or left to the states. The answer will reshape the balance between individual rights and public safety. America's gun laws remain a patchwork, split between 29 permitless carry states and 21 shall-issue states with permit requirements. Permitless states let most adults carry concealed handguns without training or background checks, arguing the Second Amendment is permit enough. Shall-issue states require permits based on objective criteria, age, background checks, and sometimes safety training. This system aims to balance gun rights with public safety, but faces challenges from both sides. Woolford v. Lopez and the push for national reciprocity threaten to upend even these moderate regulations. The debate is whether states can maintain oversight or if a single national standard will prevail. The outcome could erase the distinction between permit and permitless states. The future of American gun regulation hangs in the balance. As 2026 approaches, all eyes are on the Supreme Court and its upcoming Woolford decision, a case that could fundamentally transform public carry laws across the nation. The anticipation is building, with legal experts, lawmakers, and citizens alike wondering how the ruling will reshape the landscape of gun rights and regulations in America. If the court strikes down Hawaii's restrictive law, it would likely invalidate similar public carry restrictions in states like New York and California. This could make carrying firearms in public far more common, not just in those states, but potentially across the country, as other states may be forced to follow suit. In this new reality, private businesses would have to actively opt out of allowing guns on their premises, posting clear signs to keep firearms out. The default in many public spaces would shift, and business owners would face new decisions about how to balance safety, customer comfort, and legal requirements. law enforcement agencies and lawmakers would be forced to scramble to adapt, rewriting regulations and preparing for a wave of legal challenges. The sudden change could spark confusion and debate, as communities grapple with the practical effects of expanded public carry. In response, Congress may push harder for national reciprocity, seeking to standardize carry rights across state lines. Meanwhile, states would likely try to craft narrower, more carefully worded laws in hopes of surviving future court scrutiny and maintaining some local control. At the heart of the debate is a core conflict that has shaped American history: the tension between historical interpretations of gun rights and the modern need for public safety. Both sides are preparing for a new chapter in this ongoing struggle. Woolford versus Lopez, now backed by the Department of Justice and a broad coalition of states, could dismantle permit-based restrictions nationwide. The case has the potential to set a sweeping new precedent, changing how Americans experience their rights and responsibilities. Whatever the outcome, the court's ruling will shape the daily reality of gun rights and public safety for years to come, affecting millions of Americans in their neighborhoods, workplaces, and communities.